It's over, man. It's a wrap. Dillon Gabriel is done with the Cleveland Browns. This was an awful pick. This was a top 100 draft pick who is now about to be out of there for a late round pick, like a seventh round pick. This is nuts. Dillon Gabriel and his fiance, y'all both can crash out to this one. She had a lot to say last offseason, last training camp, and all of that. We got to break this thing down, man. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video. That would be greatly appreciated. Here on Sleeper Browns, it says Dillon Gabriel is not really in the mix to start for the Browns in 2026 per Mary Kay Cabot, one of the leaders of the Anybody But Shedeur Mafia, Mary Kay Cabot. Here it says if the Browns do add a quarterback to the roster this offseason, Cabot speculates that he could be moved for a late round pick. Gabriel was selected in the third round last year. This is nasty, nasty work. This is an embarrassing pick. Browns quarterback Dillon Gabriel gets brutal reality check. Okay. Here it says Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com delivered a harsh assessment of Gabriel's standing with the organization in her latest Q&A, acknowledging that the third round pick has upside but isn't part of the starting equation heading into 2026. She said, I know the Browns still like Gabriel and believe he has good upside potential, but he started 6 games for them. He's not really in the mix to start for them this season. Cabot said, if they don't trade him, which they're open to, they keep him as a developmental QB on a rookie contract who can start games for them if necessary. Cabot also pointing out the circumstances Gabriel faced last season during his starts. With more experience and better weapons around him, Gabriel might prove to be a better serviceable starting or backup quarterback. He's awful. He's not a starter. He may be forgotten externally, but he's not forgotten to us, Andrew Berry said. He know ain't nobody checking for Dillon Gabriel, man. Him and his fiance can go crash out. She can go crash out all she wants. She was talking crazy on social media last year when it came to this whole Shedeur situation. And now look at things. My man Earl the Pearl talked about how Dillon Gabriel probably won't be on this roster going forward. Let's take a listen.
The fact that, she mentioned Dillon Gabriel, and there's a strong possibility that, Dillon Gabriel might end up traded. You kind of said to me that kind of creates a narrative. Okay, the plan.
She opened my eyes to something.
What's that?
Because to this point, maybe this is my fault. You can say it's my fault. If you want to say it's my fault, give us a call. It's fine. To this point, I have been operating under this premise of man, they're not going to draft a quarterback. They got 2 young guys already here. Why would they do that? But it's almost like I had blinders to the fact that free agency's before the draft. Mary Kay brought it up. If they add a guy in free agency, or if they were to trade for an Anthony Richardson per se, let's just throw that example out there, or let's throw Kyler Murray out there as somebody that they maybe sign because he's going to be a free agent when they cut him. We do need to talk about Kyler at some point too, and the whole idea of everyone just all these people being out on every quarterback that isn't Sam Darnold, like Lyman was arguing. We'll get to that coming up, but if they add a quarterback during free agency, that puts them at the 4 quarterback that they normally carry in the offseason. But all of a sudden, they might look and say, all right, well, we don't necessarily think Dillon's a fit, and we added this other guy that we feel like is more of a fit, and we want him to be part of the competition or whatever. We need to trade Dillon Gabriel or get rid of Dillon Gabriel in some capacity. If they do that, if they somehow manage to move Dillon Gabriel, now all of a sudden, the drafting the quarterback's back on the table again, at least for me, because that then feels like you've now opened this other spot because they're going to carry 4 to see, okay, what quarterbacks are out there. Do we like a guy enough that, she mentioned Drew Aller, that we would take a Drew Aller maybe in a later round and try to draft and develop him, whatever. I'm now my eyes are open to the possibilities of that, because that was kind of operating under the premise that the 3 guys that are here are going to be here when training camp opens, and they're going to add 1 guy either via free agency or the draft to sort of be in there. Now I'm what if they both sign a guy and draft a guy? It's not out of the question.
So the reality of the situation is Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders cannot be the only 2 quarterbacks on this roster. No. You need at least 3 quarterbacks on this roster. Newsflash, quarterbacks get hurt. You need depth at that position. the Browns drafting a quarterback in the later rounds is not the most far-fetched idea, right? Where you go, Arkansas? You know what quarterback I'm talking about. His name is escaping me right now. But the kid who
Just had the
measured
QB list up,
6'6"
too.
at the NFL Combine, ran like a 4.3 40, big dude. That's a guy whose name that you have not heard much of throughout this entire process. But if you talk about the archetype quarterback,
Taylor Green? Okay.
the archetype of quarterback that Todd Monken likes, he fits that mold of guys that will fit the Todd Monken system. That's not a guy that's projected to be a day one or a day two draft pick, right? And so drafting him and having him in your back pocket to develop long term, whether he ends up being QB1 or if he's just a long term backup or whatever, that makes good football sense for your team, right? You have to do so. And I think we were trying to sell the fact of Dillon Gabriel being here because we didn't want to dismiss him.
Yeah.
If we being honest with ourselves. But again, of the quarterbacks that's currently in the room, and you talk about what Todd Monken likes in the quarterback position, he is the odd man out by default, right? Just based on his limitations and based on him not fitting the mold.
Yeah. And I thought he was more mobile, but then like last year, that didn't really help him all that much. And it actually ended up being like Shedeur, who we can all admit, like, say what you want about Shedeur Sanders, being like Lamar Jackson athlete is not his that's not something that's in his skill set.
He's more athletic than what we gave him credit for.
But he showed he can be mobile, like you said, and like escape the pocket and do some things. And that's something that maybe they lean on. You know, Schweitzer talked about that this week. Travis Schweitzer talked about that this week. The idea that like he's mobile enough for what they want to do. So she really pumped up the idea, Mary Kay did, that they're going to kind of lean into Shedeur here. And like that they're going to try to make him have a chance to really win this competition and showcase what he can do. I think that's notable, right? Like that kind of frames things as we go into this free agent period around where their minds maybe are at the quarterback position. It probably means Malik Willis ain't happening. Because if you go sign Malik Willis, that's your starter next year. Like you're not going to pay a dude upwards of $30 million a year to not start for you. Like that's just not happening. So now I still think somebody like Anthony Richardson could be in play, even if you're trying to even if Shedeur's trying to be your starter, because Anthony Richardson's a 1-year experiment that's like, hey, come here and compete for the job and let's see what happens, and Shedeur could still win that competition. Listen, we talked about it last week. Deshaun should still look like one of the better quarterbacks in that room, given his experience, right? But I still keep going back to, man, like, nobody benefits from Deshaun